very warm welcome to Rebbetzin Slovie Wolff from America. I was just saying to Slovie, for those of you that didn't hear our conversation, how precious and just incredible it is to be able to have somebody of her stature. You know, there was Sinai and Darvel, many other reasons. She's flown out all over the world, but we can just, with a click of a button, have her in our dining rooms and have her together with us. Tonight we are presenting this talk on behalf of the Yeshiva College Schools and Yeshiva Mizrahi Campus to really bring you learning, inspiration, continued growth through our community. So we love having you here, and please come to all our talks. We have talks usually around once a month. A huge yasher koach and thank you to Jolene Swartz, who really puts these talks together. Jo, you're a superstar, and we really appreciate first of all your incredible network all over the world, and for organizing this evening. As we all know, we are sitting here in time at one of the most precious times of the year, the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, a time of introspection and depth and re-looking at things. And for those of us that are parents, one aspect of our lives that, of course, we have to look at, we have to introspect, we have to re-gauge, is who we are as parents. Rebbetzin Slovie has written a book on parenting. She coaches parenting, and this is such an important focus, because one of the best things I ever heard is that we think we grow our children up, they grow us up, and so really part of our growth is our parenting, and so we are just very grateful for some insight and just inspiration about parenting here tonight. Over to you, Slovie. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for your beautiful intro. I appreciate. And I want to speak to all of you from South Africa to say that my fondest memories, and my husband too, are our trips to South Africa when the chief rabbi invited us for the Indaba, and we got to meet the community. So whenever I receive an invitation to go back to South Africa and return, even by Zoom, I feel as if I'm back with family and friends. Your Hachnasis Orchim, the way you've opened your home to us and your lives to us and your hearts to us. Very, very beautiful and special, warm community. So I'm so happy to be here with you today before Yom Kippur. I want to start with making a bracha. So we start with a mitzvah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. Okay. We're going to speak now about parenting, and if there's any time in our lives where parenting has really taken the focus from the school to the home, it's these days during the coronavirus pandemic time. So much what we do really today counts, because our children are spending more and more time at home with us. So today I'd like us to think about the 4G's of parenting, 4 ways that we can connect and think about how we can better our lives and our relationships with our children. When my children were younger, we went to a place in New York called Chelsea Piers. And in Chelsea Piers, there's a place to go climbing, like a rock climbing wall. So one of my sons at that time, who's just a little guy, who was, I think, 3 years old, and his older siblings were climbing up, he said to me, I want to go too. And I said to him, oh, you're so little. I don't know if this is such a good idea. And he asked, so we harnessed him up, and he's going up, and my heart is, wow, pounding, because the wall is so high and he's so little. When he finally comes down, he runs to me with that sweet smile and twinkling eyes that little children have. And I said to him, Akiva, weren't you afraid? And he said, no, Mommy. I said, why not? Because, Mommy, he said with a smile, I was connected. And at that moment, I had such a aha moment in my mind that if a child feels connected, then a child feels strong. If there's a connection, a sense of safety, of love, a child can go through anything. We don't want our children to go through difficulties, but life is not perfect. In order for them to gain strength to go through life, They must have that feeling that they are harnessed with emunah, with faith, with bitachon, harnessed with love, harnessed with their parents and their families. And if they don't feel safety or love from their families, then chas v'shalom, God forbid, then they go look for love and safety and good feelings in other places. So what can we do to create this relationship and connection and environment with our children? What can you and I do? After a class that I gave, a couple came over to me and they had a question. The father said to me that he takes his children often to different sports games, and he took his son to a basketball game. He got him good tickets. He wanted to really spend time with this child. But the entire time, this child did not speak to him. Only once, he said. And the only time he spoke to him was when he asked him if he could have his credit card to go get a cup of soda at intermission. And it aggravated him so much. What do you think about that? He said to me. I looked at this couple and I said, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't want you to feel badly. But I do want you to be honest. From the time that your son was a little boy and you took him places, you drove him to school, you did carpool, whatever it is that you did with him, when you spent time with this child, did you speak to him? Or were you checking your emails? Were you looking at your phone? Did you look at your child? Did you hear your child? Did you talk to your child? Or did you talk to your phone, look at your phone, engage your phone, and your child learned that this is what is normal? In order to have a connection, in order to harness strength and fortitude with children, they must feel that we are present, both in body, in emotion, and in mind. I cannot look at my phone and think that I'm engaging. It's like if right now, when we're speaking together, if I would be looking down at my phone, you would feel terrible. So a lot has to do when we try to connect with our children and raise our children with just putting away any distractions, especially our phones, work, email. Now that a lot of parents are working from home, it's endless. It's like we're always on a work call. We're always on an email. We're always at the laptop or the computer or checking what's new in the world. And we have to know that there has to be a place of sacred space in our homes where it's just for family and nobody and nothing else. Which brings us to the 4G's of connection. What we're going to do is we're going to speak about each of these different topics, the 4G's. We're going to speak about the problem, why it's difficult for us to maintain it, and then we're going to give solutions, because just speaking about problems is not very helpful. So we're going to find solutions too, Be'ezrat Hashem, with Hashem's help. Where do we begin? We begin with number one, gratitude. The first G is gratitude. Hakaras hatov, an attitude of gratitude. You see, just like every home must have a physical foundation, every home too must have a spiritual foundation. On this foundation, the home is built, the home stands. If there's a crack in the foundation, you can have the most gorgeous home in the world, it will not stand. And the spiritual foundation of every single home must be hakaras hatov, an attitude of gratitude. Because if I appreciate what I have, I cherish what I have, I respect what I have, I take care of what I have. And the same goes for the people in my life. If I appreciate you, mommy, if I appreciate you, daddy, then I speak to you with derech eretz, with respect. I cherish you. I value you. I hear you. I want to be with you. So why is it so difficult? Because when there is a lack of hakaras hatov, when there's a lack of gratitude, do you know what comes? Chutzpah. Terrible, terrible disrespect. Chutzpah comes from arrogance and a sense of entitlement. You owe me. Why'd you do that? Who said you could come to my room? Why didn't you buy me that? Ugh, that's for supper? That's where we're going? You said that already. You did that already. That's what you're getting me for my birthday? All this is part of an attitude that comes with arrogance and entitlement. Chutzpah comes exactly when there is a lack of hakaras hatov. And why is it such a problem? Why is it so difficult for us to teach our children how to have hakaras hatov? Think carefully. We live in a disposable society. Everything is replaceable. Everything gets thrown out. When was the last time that you ever fixed something? You just buy another one. We throw things at our children. They lose things, we just buy another one. If you ever see children going to sleepaway camp, they have these heavy trunks when they leave. You need like 4 people to carry it. And when they come back, you could pick it up with your pinky. What happened to all the different things that they had? It's all lost because they have so many kippas, so many yarmulkes, so many sweatshirts, so many baseball caps, so many balls, so many notebooks and gifts, little gifts that you send them, so many hair bows, so many pairs of shoes and sneakers. And when we keep buying so much and replacing so much, what happens is our children stop appreciating what they have. If you lose, I'll just buy you another one. If you ever go to a school or a camp at the end of the year or the end of the summer, there is so much in that lost and found, and nobody comes back to claim it. You could you could give clothing to a whole village. Why is that? Because our children know that we're going to replace it. We're going to give them more. So how do we fix this problem? Number one, what's the solution? We have to speak and think about wants versus needs. Am I doing or buying for my child because they want something or because they need something? How often do you hear a child say, hey, why does he get new sneakers? I should also get new sneakers. And we end up buying for both of them. You're buying a gift for a friend for a birthday, for their party. And when your child goes with you to choose the gift, they want something too. So you say, okay, so pick out a little thing. Just because somebody else does not mean that you also have to get. And this is huge chinuch. This is a huge, important principle of educating our children. Just because somebody else has, don't put your eyes always on what everybody else has. Be grateful for what you have. And it starts when they're young. Hey, she got more orange juice than me. Why does he get 5 chicken nuggets and I only got 3? And so you know what we do? We measure and we make sure that they both have the same amount in the cup. Or we add, instead of saying, when you finish, I'm happy to give more to you. First, appreciate what you have. V'achalta, v'savata, uveirachta. We say it in benching, in Birkat Hamazon. It says this beautiful pasuk, this verse in the Torah. V'achalta, eat, v'savata, be satisfied, uveirachta, and make a bracha, make a blessing. Our children are v'achalta. They know how to eat. They know how to consume. They know how to have more and more and more. V'savata. But here's a question. Does my child know how to be satisfied? Does my child know and understand the blessing of enough? Does my child know how to appreciate what he and she has? Or are they always looking at what others have? Are they always looking, why can't you get me this and why can't you get me that? V'achalta, the consumer part is absolutely down. But v'savata, uveirachta, and then to make a bracha, to appreciate what we have. So in order to teach our children hakaras hatov, this attitude of gratitude, we must teach them to understand the difference between wants and needs. We must teach them to take a step back. Are you satisfied? Do you see the blessing, the bracha of enough that you have? And that's why on a mezuzah that's by your front door, think about it. We stop, we give a kiss to the mezuzah, and the mezuzah's letters are Shin, Dalet, Yud. What does that mean? It comes from the word dai, enough. In this house, I have the blessing of enough. Everything that I have comes from Hashem. And Hashem has made sure that everything I need is right here. We're so busy on social media. Our kids are so busy on social media eyeing what other people are doing and having. So they're never satisfied with what they themselves have. And we interpret and define happiness, taking care of our children, with giving them more and more stuff. So I would say that we have to think about more presence, meaning to be present in both body and mind and emotion, and less presence, less buying them presents. It's not the things that they need. They need our time. They need us to look at them, to spend time together. Hakaras HaTov also comes when we are able together as parents to express thank you to each other. When was the last time your child heard you express thank you to your spouse? Because when children never hear a thank you, then they don't understand how to be grateful for what they have. So we have to model thankfulness, to say thank you for Shabbos, thank you for the vacation, thank you for making dinner, thank you for helping me with the carpool. Whatever it is, we can't take each other for granted in our homes. Especially now when children are home so much, our homes are our greatest classrooms, and they are watching and taking it all in. How I speak to you is how I want you to speak to me. How I treat you is how I want you to treat me. And it must be with the foundation of Hakaras HaTov. Some time ago, I was in a shop, a clothing shop for children, and there was a mother with her teenage daughter there. Her daughter was just piling dresses and skirts and t-shirts and sweatshirts. And I saw the mother say to this child of hers, "Are you sure you need all that?" This girl said, yes. She hardly even looked at her mother when she answered. They were shopping for camp. And I could see that for the mother, this was very difficult and it was a very big deal. They finally finished their expedition. They get to the checkout and they're by the cashier. This girl is just looking down at her phone, chewing her gum, not looking at her mother. And the saleswoman says, that will be $460 something and something cents. This child doesn't even look up. The mother opens up her purse, her bag, and she counts out every single last dollar that she has. I saw she was left on nothing, empty. And you could see with her fingers, like, it was hard. It was hard. So she puts the money down. This girl doesn't even look up. She has all these bags. Who do you think carried the bags out of the store? The mother. This girl didn't even offer to lift a finger to help. Not even a thank you, not even a smile. And when they left, I thought to myself, how sorry I feel. Sorry for both of them. Sorry for this mother for not knowing what it is to feel appreciated, for believing that if she just keeps buying and buying and buying, her daughter will finally be happy and she will have a connection with her. And sorry for this child who doesn't know what it means to have a mother who just keeps giving. How to say thank you for this child who will never be happy with what she has and always be looking for more and more and more, growing entitled, more and more unhappy. Show me a grateful person, I will show you a happy person. And that's what we need to teach our children. An attitude of gratitude, to wake up in the morning and to say, Moda Ani, thank you Hashem for my life. So whenever I give a parenting class and I speak about waking up in the morning, I always say to the parents, when you wake up in the morning and you want to have this attitude of gratitude, look in the mirror for a moment and ask yourself, would I want to wake up to this face? Because if the answer is no, then I need to put a smile on my face. I need to work on my attitude. I need to show my children, my spouse, that I'm happy to see you this morning, that I have bracha, that I have blessing in my life. So that's the first G, attitude of gratitude. Next, grit. What is grit? Grit is resilience. Grit is being able to overcome obstacles. Nobody listening today wants to hear a child to say, that's impossible. I could never do it. I'm so dumb. I just always fail. I'm not doing this anymore. Why is everything so hard for me? It's not fair. Why do some children have that attitude? There was an author, she's a teacher actually, and she wrote a book about grit. Her name is Angela Lee Ducksworth. She decided to study and figure out why it is that certain kids in her classroom failed while others were successful. She opened her eyes to see and expand her study to adult kids, to military, to spelling bee contestants. You know, she really made a huge study about this. And what did she find? She found that success comes not because of intelligence, not because of IQ, not because of finances or money or the level of education. Do you know why certain children are more successful than others? Certain kids fail and certain kids succeed. It was because the children who succeeded were the children who had grit. They lived life as if they were running a marathon. Nothing would stop them. They fell, they picked themselves up, they cleaned themselves off, and they just kept on going. They lived with a passion, with resilience. That's what we want for our children. We want our children to be grittier. Now, how do you do that? And what's the problem? Why do so many children just give up like a wilted flower? What's the problem? The problem is that we look at the word fail, F-A-I-L, as a four-letter word. Nobody wants a child to fail. Nobody wants a child to fall. Nobody wants a child to be disappointed. I don't either. Of course not. But that's not real life. Life is not Disneyland. And we have to allow children to sometimes know that there are disappointments. And that doesn't mean that you are a disappointment. There are mistakes, and that doesn't mean that you are a mistake. There are failures, and that does not mean that you are a failure. And you could pick yourself up, and you can do this. But what we as parents do is we take over. So if there's a very difficult report, and it's already 11 o'clock, 11:30, and our kids are running late, and they've running out of steam, instead of saying, you know what, sweetie, I'm going to make you a hot cocoa, and I'm going to, be here and encourage them, we say, go to sleep, it's so late, I'll finish this for you. Big mistake, because we're not allowing our children to learn how to have grit and resilience and overcome obstacles and sweat a little bit. And that's the problem. We do it for them. We don't want them to feel frustrated. When I ask parents in an audience, what's your goal? What's your goal for your children this year? Almost unanimously, the answer is, my goal is that my child be happy. And I will always respond and say, big mistake. Big mistake. Your goal is not that your child be happy. Your goal is to give your child tools for happiness, because nobody knows what life brings. You cannot make your child happy. Nobody can make another person happy. You need to give your children tools for happiness so they learn how to be happy, how to overcome disappointment, how to try again, how to keep on going. A happier child is not the one that you do the work for. A happier child is the one who sweat and toiled over something and then came home with their mark and said, wow, mommy, I really tried. And you feel so good about trying. You feel so good about giving. You feel so good about doing. You know what that's called? That's called being alive. So we have to allow our children to be alive, to grow, to keep on going. Could you imagine if you're trying to teach your child to ride a bike and there are training wheels, And you're so afraid that your child's going to fall that you never take off the training wheels. So they're 16 years old and they're still with training wheels. That's ridiculous. Could you imagine with a toddler trying to walk, and every time the toddler falls, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't allow that child to fall. So you run and you pick the child up and you hold their hand and you never let the child fall. What's going to happen? That child will not learn how to walk. That child is not going to learn how to ride the bike, to fall, to get a skinned knee, a skinned elbow, but it's okay. You get back on the bike and one day you watch that child, you're like, wow, look at him go. And that child is just taking that bike and going into the wind, and you wave goodbye and your heart is soaring. Instead of holding on and keeping those training wheels on, you can't do that because that's not life. So as difficult as it is sometimes, we must allow our children to grow gritty. And that comes through disappointments. That comes through falling and then standing up. That comes through sometimes sweating, staying up at night, doing a report again, doing a test again, trying again when things don't go right, being frustrated. Because we don't know what life holds, but we can certainly give our children tools to overcome challenges, to climb the mountain. And that's our job. The solution we learn from the Torah. And we say we have to go back to the Torah. So Sari Meinu, our mother Sarah, when she wanted to wean Yitzchak, Isaac, the pasuk says, Vayigmol, that she weaned. But Vayigmol does not only mean to wean, Vayigmol also means Gvilat Chesed, to give. And the question is, how can you wean to stop to give and give at the same time? What's the Torah teaching us? And here Jewish wisdom is unbelievable. The Torah is teaching us that sometimes the greatest gift of giving is weaning, because you're giving independence. You're allowing a child to stand on their own 2 feet. Give them the breath of air that they can walk out into the world and do and accomplish. Give them the freedom to make a mistake. Yes, you're right there on the side. You will wipe a tear. You will encourage. You will give a good word. You will give a hug. You will give a kiss. But you will allow that child to know that no matter what, no matter how hard I fall, I can get up. I can do it again, because that is what creates success. I was in a local supermarket by me, and it was a Thursday night. It was, I think, the 3rd time that I was in that store that day, because at like 9 o'clock, I heard that I was having more company. So there I went trudging back to the local supermarket, and it was packed. I started to load all these things in my arms. There were no more carts to be had. And I'm standing on line trying to balance everything. There's a little girl in front of me. She looks at me and she said, wow, you have so much stuff. I said, I do. Don't you want a cart? She said. I said, I would love a cart, but there's no more carts. Oh, she said, there's a cart in the back of the store. I said, that's nice. So she looked at her mother and she said, Mommy, can I get this lady a cart? Which was, wow, which child does that? And her mother said yes. So she went to get the cart for me. I look at this mother and I say, what a special little girl you have. I can't believe it. Like, who would do that? That's so nice. And this mother looks at me. She says, you don't even know half the story. You didn't see her legs? And I said, her legs? No. Oh, this mother said, this year, this child was diagnosed with a very difficult illness. Every step is painful. She has braces on her legs. As this sweet little girl comes back with my cart and this huge smile on her face, I see that on both her legs, she has braces. And every single step was a step of pain. She brings the cart to me. I lean in and I say, what's your name? Ayala, she says. Ayala. Do you know that I speak all over the world? And I'm going to tell this to your mother. I speak about parenting all over the world. I meet mommies and daddies, bubbies and zaddies, grandmas and grandpas, fathers and mothers who would do anything to have a child just like you. Just like you. That's grit. So we can give our children this gift in order to give them the ability to overcome challenge, to be successful. Number 3, greatness. To raise a great child. Everybody listening right now, of course we want a great child. What does that mean to have a great child? A child who has confidence, a child who believes in themselves, a child who knows that they can do great things in this world. Who doesn't want that? Of course we all want that. And what's the problem? The problem is that if I would ask you right now, how do you raise a great child? Most of us believe that the more we praise a child, the greater the child is. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Look at the Lego you, but Daddy, come look at this. This is amazing. We're going to have to call Grandma now. Did you see what she did? Go to a park. Watch when children are even pumping on a swing. Wow, great pumping. Look how you came down the slide. That's amazing. Look at the picture you drew. Wow, that's gorgeous. I never saw such a picture my whole life. And this is how we raise our children to be great. And then they get to school, and you have 28 other great kids who might be a little just average, but nobody wants to hear average. Nobody wants to go to a PTA, go in, and the teacher says, oh, Mrs. Cohn, Mr. Cohn, your child is so average. Nobody wants to hear that. We all want to hear, your child is awesome. Your child is great. But praise is not the way to create a great child, because praise is just empty. It's empty words. What does it mean to be awesome? Imagine that you did something. Imagine you made a beautiful dish for your Shabbos table. You bring it out and everyone says, oh, wow, that looks so great. I mean, you put work in it. You did. You were creative. You sweat. So just giving children empty words and over again does not really create greatness in a child. You don't find self-confidence from that. So how do you find greatness? What is the solution? The solution is to put a name on the greatness, meaning, wow, you were so kind. That was so brave of you. Look at the way you shared. That was so sensitive. I know it was very hard for you not to hit your brother. That was very, very strong of you. There are ways that we can pinpoint and put names on the character traits that we want to bring out in our children through which we achieve greatness. But one way we will not achieve greatness is through empty praise. At the end of one class that I gave, one of the parents raised her hands and she said, I want to share this with everyone, because it was a class in self-confidence. And she said, my husband and I have this thing that we do, and we just want to share it with you all. We heard about it from a politician that this is the way that he was raised and he's very successful. So now we do this for our son. This politician said that whenever he would get up in the morning and come down to the kitchen, his parents would stand up and they would say, hooray for Noah, Noah's here. So every time our child comes into the room, we get up and we applaud him. And it makes him feel so good. And I said to this woman and to the class, I'm so sorry, but if you want to applaud your child, applaud them for chesed, applaud them for compassion, applaud them for bravery, applaud them for working hard, for sweating, for giving to another. But you cannot applaud a child for just walking into a room and existing, because that's not greatness. See greatness in your child. Recognize greatness in your child. But don't allow it to be empty praise. And finally, we come to number 4. And 4 is goodness. Goodness means that our children have a lev tov, a good heart, that they stretch for another, that they give for another. Ask yourself, when was the last time my child actually sacrificed for another, gave for another, gave a chair to another, gave her spot to another, gave his emotions to another, gave something up? Goodness. Olam chesed yibane. Our world is shaped and created and built through goodness. The reason we are in this gullus today, the reason we are in this exile today is because 2 Jews could not sit at a table together and look at each other and smile. And now that we all have to cover our faces with masks and cannot see each other's smiles, I think the message is so loud and clear that Hashem is telling us, perhaps, appreciate each other, be good to each other. Start appreciating each other's words and small. Use your words for good. I gave you a mouth. What have you used your mouth for? Because we can use our mouth to build, or we could use our mouth to destroy. You can tell a joke to lift somebody's spirits, or you can tell a joke and strike somebody down and kill them. It's up to us. You could use your mouth for a bracha, for a blessing, or you could use a mouth to hurt somebody to their very core and wound them in their souls and their neshamas. And I've met so many children who are wounded because of what somebody said or did. Goodness means that I actually can look at you and I can feel something. I get empathy, sensitivity, to be sensitive for another. And what's the problem? Why is it so hard for our children to touch that goodness, that part that's inside of every single one of us? Why have they grown so hard? We live in a world called the selfie world, where you take a picture and instead of looking at others, you take a picture like this and you look at yourself. Could you ever have imagined growing up and taking your camera and just focusing it on you? Our children are living in a world where the lens is only on themselves, and they think only of themselves, and they see only themselves. And then when they take the picture, they actually enlarge it to see exactly how they look and how to edit it so that they look perfect. And they've stopped seeing the eyes and the hearts and the pain of others. In fact, when you forward a text that hurts another person, when you forward a clip or a picture or a video that's hurtful to another person, you never get to see the pain that you caused. So in the past, when a child would say something that's hurtful or do something that's hurtful, they would at least see a tear. They would at least see a cheek that turned red. They would at least see a lip that trembled. But today, there's no consequences. You just forward the text and it's mean. You forward the picture and it's cruel. And you never get to see, the child never gets to see the impact of their words. They never get to see the pain. And so there's a whole huge part of greatness that is covered now inside their hearts. And so what can we do? How do we teach our children greatness again? Of course, we go back to the Torah, because as much as we think we're sophisticated and intelligent and smart, we have 100,000 self-help books coming out every year. But every year another 100,000 come out, which means that we haven't discovered the solution. But Torah is immutable and Torah never changes. And Torah gives us solutions for life. Moshe Rabbeinu was in Mitzrayim. Moshe was in Egypt. And he was living in the palace of Paro. And what did he do? The Torah described by Yigdal that he grew and he came out of the palace He saw his brothers, Vayaris Siblosam, and he saw their pain, Vayigdal, and he grew. And the question is, why does the Torah say that he grew twice? There's never an extra word in the Torah, because the first time he grew in years and in height. But the second time he grew as a human being. He grew his heart, because he was able to leave his bubble and his palace, go out and see the pain of his brothers. Vayaran, he saw. Could you imagine if Moshe would have been on his phone the entire time he was out there? He never would have seen the pain of another Jew. He would be so self-absorbed. So we have to teach our children to get out of their bubble, to see, to look at the pain of others. Right now, during this pandemic, there is so much pain in the world. There are so many people who are suffering. Our children can do incredible things. Call a grandparent that you're not able to see, an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor. Just call them for Shabbos. Call them during the week. Say, I miss you. If you have a child who's great at art, let them make a beautiful picture, a card, and let them send it to somebody who's lonely. Call a classmate that you know is not being included. Make your Shabbos table beautiful. Make every mitzvah that you do count. We're coming to Sukkot. Have your children included to make a glorious, beautiful sukkah. Because when you give, when you invest, you take pride. You know who you are. You know where you come from. You know where you're going. Have your children feel. Don't allow them to just take for themselves. You take a cup of water, look around the table. Who else needs a cup of water? You're warming for yourself a pizza. Who else in the house needs a pizza? Everybody's home now. Don't just sit on the couch. Mommy needs help. Daddy needs help. There's responsibilities that you have when you're home. Lift a finger. See the pain. We have to teach this to our children, because this is the secret of the next generation, not to be selfish. We are in this long, long gullus exile from selfishness. And this is the only way we're going to get out of it. So I'd like to end with this, my dear friends. As you raise your children and you listen to my stories and my words, my message, I hope you take it to heart. As we come to Yom Kippur right now, it's time for us to look within, to ask ourselves, if we want to raise children with faith, then we ourselves must have faith. If we want to raise children who are kind, then we ourselves must be kind. If we want to raise children who are connected to Hashem, who daven, who are passionate about their Judaism, then we too must be connected to Hashem, daven, be passionate with our Judaism, because our children see everything. When my daughter was going to choose which song she would like to walk down to her chuppah, we were speaking to the musicians. I had the band leader in my home, and he asked my daughter, what would you like to walk down to? She said, I'd like to walk down to the song, B'Shem Hashem Elokei Yisrael, in the name of Hashem, the God of Israel. It's a tefillah, it's a prayer that we say with the bedtime Shema. We say, Mimini Michal, Mismoli Gabriel, Milafane Uriel, Me'acharei Rafal, Del Roshi Shechinaz Kel. We speak about all the malachim, all the angels that surround us. That's what I'd like to walk down to, my daughter said. And after he left, my daughter turned to me and she said, Mommy, do you know why I chose that song? And I said, no, Bubala, why? She said, because when I was a little girl, every single night, you came into my room, you said Shema, and you sang this for me, B'Shem Hashem. And when I walk down the chuppah, Mommy, and I start my life now, I don't know where life is going to take me. I know we're going to go to Yerushalayim, but I want to take your tefillah, I want to take your Shema, and I want to take your malachim, your angels with me. I always want to hear your voice, Mommy. So I give us all a bracha, that no matter where our children go in life, no matter how challenging this time is, or any time, that our children take our voices, our tefillos, our prayers our malachim, our angels with us. I thank you so much, and a Gemar Chasima Tov.
Thank you so much, Slovie. Gemar Chasima Tov to you. I'd like to add a 5G to your gratitude and grit and greatness and what was the 5th one? Goodness. Thank you for your generosity. It's so wonderful at this very hectic time of year where we all want to be focused on our own growth, that you really have spent so much time with us just facilitating our growth, and we really, really appreciate it. It's wonderful to have such practical tools. I always say that at this stage of my life where I've got a child in preschool and primary school and a boys' high school and a girls' high school and at Yeshiva, I say I'm not an expert yet, but I definitely have experience. And yet,
for all of us.
There's no day in my life where I can say that I got it right or I got it perfectly right. And so these reminders, especially about such an important aspect of our life, is really just so fabulous, and such a chizuk to go into Yom Kippur with, into Shabbos, into Yom Kippur, and then into the Simcha of Sukkot. So thank you so much. Brachos for you and your family. Thank you to everybody for joining us at our Yeshiva College Mizrahi events. If you would like to know more about what we do and be appraised of further events, please contact Yeshiva College and we'll make sure to put you on our mailing list. Mar Chatima Tova to absolutely everybody. Please God, a good year, a healthy year filled with bracha and success and nachas from children and only good things. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank you again to Jolene Swartz.
Thank you. Thank you, Jolene.